Billy RL. Billy RL.
Ashe, everyone. This is Billy Ariel Real Life. I'm coming to you from inside the Resistance Studio. I'm here because I really want each and every one of you out there, and you tell your friends and whoever to come and listen to what's going on. I am going to present to you something from this person who calls himself the Defiant Lawyers. And what he is saying is nothing but the absolute down to earth, honest to goodness truth. And this is what we here, the resistance team, have been saying to each and every one of you out there before. But maybe with him coming forward saying this, maybe you all will believe exactly what he's saying. Because I'm gonna tell you, that man in that White House is not who you think he is, and all those who are associated with him. And maybe if you can listen, take your time and sit down and put your good listening ears on, you can find out exactly what the resistance team has been saying all along, and what this man here, who calls himself the Defiant Lawyers Network, what he's saying is exactly what we've been saying, and maybe you will believe something. This is a must watch. Your president, number 47, Donald J. Trump, is not who you think he is. And as I said before, we, the resistance team, and there are a few, just a little few others that have been saying the same thing. He's not who you think he is. This man is not for the people, by the people, and with the people, especially the Black Negro people. So listen and give me your feedback on it as to what you think and how you feel. We need to know this, not only myself and I, but the entire resistance team. Okay? Listen to it.
There are still many black people who don't understand how deeply racist the Trump administration is, how much they desire, that is, the Trump administration desire, to roll back gains from the civil rights movement, and how dangerous that is for African Americans. We're dealing with a modern version of the KKK. Many blacks have a difficult time seeing this because when most of us hear about the KKK or the Ku Klux Klan, we imagine pointed hats and white robes and cross burning. But honestly, that image, that misses the whole point. The Klan wasn't just about street violence and burning crosses. It was an ideology promoting white supremacy. They believe that white people should run the world, including the United States of America. They believed everyone else should be excluded, or even worse, violently oppressed, murdered, lynched, and so on. And they thought the government should enforce that order at all costs. Now, back in the 20s, these ideals weren't just on the fringes. They were in governor's offices, in state legislatures, in police departments, sheriff's departments, military, even in Congress. Even after the Klan as an organization had faded away, the ideals, the ideology stuck around. They always do. That's the troubling part. History keeps repeating this cycle. Yes, the costumes fade away, the pointed hats, the hooded hats, the robes, they disappear. But the language, the ideology gets a makeover. The goals, they stick around. After Reconstruction, violence crushed black political power. That's how it started. Then Jim Crow laws carried on the same work, the same oppression. It was just dressed up as policy. And later on, the language got softer. Instead of the N-word, it became law and order, or states' rights, or preserving Western civilization. Scholars who study extremism break it down pretty simple. movements survive because they keep adapting. They swap old slogans for new symbols. They swap angry mobs for institutions and systems. And they swap open hatred for coded language. That coded language, it matters a lot, folks. Most people hear it and think it sounds pretty harmless. It even sounds patriotic. But if you study white supremacist movements, the signals are obvious. The dog whistles are obvious. The Anti-Defamation League documents this shift in detail. And the same with the Southern Poverty Law Center. And academic researchers who track radicalization and government messaging, they see it too. But when the government uses that language, things get a whole lot more serious. State power makes those ideals seem normal. Official statements give them legitimacy. And if it's said enough times, extremism just becomes like background noise. We've seen this in America before. President Woodrow Wilson, for example, he resegregated the federal government. He even screened this movie called The Birth of a Nation right inside the White House. The Klan itself didn't have to run the government, but its ideology was already in charge, corrupting the next generation of Americans. In fact, you could say many generations of America. All of this brings us to a New York Times article that shows how the Trump administration is, as Woodrow Wilson did, is promoting KKK ideology from the White House today. And that's why I always say you got to stay woke. All right. Now let's go to another screen so that we can read this article and see exactly how this KKK ideology is being promoted all across the United States of America by the Trump administration. All right. Let's go to the article. Now, before we go further, let me give you a definition of white supremacy. This is my definition of white supremacy. Keep this in mind as I go through this New York Times article. So white supremacy is a satanically backed racist ideology based on the false belief that God created Europeans and their descendants superior to all other ethnicities and empowered them with the right to conquer and rule over others. They use racist instruments such as the manifest destiny, the doctrine of discovery, papal bulls, and more to propagate the system of white supremacy. It's the root of systemic racism. Now, keep that in mind as we go through this New York Times article, which shows how the Trump administration in various federal agencies is promoting that same old KKK ideology. All right. So this is the image that is on that article. I added the words below, white supremacist in chief. The New York Times article doesn't use that term, but I think it's appropriate, and I added it myself. All right. The New York Times administration social media posts echo white supremacist messaging. This is all the New York Times here. A flurry of posts from the White House, Department of Labor, and Department of Homeland Security have included images, slogans, and even a song used by the white nationalist right. Now, once again, keep in mind, this is their way of promoting KKK ideology. So they don't wear hooded hats. They don't wear pointed hats, white robes, and all that around the White House and in Trump's administration. But they are pushing the same KKK ideology. All right. That's what this article brings out. The posts have referred to neo-Nazi literature, ethnic cleansing, and QAnon conspiracies, mused about deporting nearly a third of the U.S. population, and promoted lyrics from an anthem bellowed by the far-right militants of the Proud Boys. Their authors are not on society's fringe. They are in the office of the White House and the Departments of Homeland Security and Labor using official government accounts. To some people, the administration's posts sound patriotic. Others might sense at most a faint dog whistle to extremists. Some posts may just look odd, but those well-versed in the obtruse codes of right-wing extremism hear klaxons. This month, the White House and the Department of Homeland Security jointly pointed a recruitment ad for immigration and customs enforcement on Instagram, Facebook, and X, overlaid with the words, "We'll have our home again." That's also the name of a song written by members of a self-described pro-white fraternal order that has been embraced by the Proud Boys and other white nationalist groups. Hundreds of explicitly neo-Nazi and white supremacist accounts have shared the song on Telegram, an encrypted messaging app, since 2020. The white supremacists who killed 3 black people at a Jacksonville, Florida dollar store in 2023 included lyrics from the song in his writing. Now here is the image. We'll have our home again. All right, join.ice.gov. So if you don't know what all of this is about, this looks pretty benign, right? Pretty harmless. All right, but there is all sorts of white racist KKK ideology hidden discreetly in this image that you see here. So they're talking to each other. They're using these dog whistles. And like I said earlier, the N-word is gone. The pointed hats, gone. The robes, gone. But they're communicating to themselves discreetly all the time. And keep in mind where this is coming from. This is coming from the White House, DHS, the Labor Department, DOJ, and so on. It is just what Woodrow Wilson did 100 years ago when he played that movie, The Birth of a Nation. This is very dangerous. And you need to understand, black person, what is going on here. There are 2 types of people to whom these messages will quickly look familiar. Orrin Siegel, a vice president for counter-extremism at the Anti-Defamation League, said of the panoply of postings, quote, white supremacists and those who study white supremacists. So if you're not a white supremacist, or if you don't study white supremacists, these images, these coded words, they may not seem and sound and look familiar to you. That's why I'm doing this video, so that you can understand what we're dealing with here. All right? A Homeland Security spokeswoman, Tricia McLaughlin, said that if the ICE recruiting posts were actually about the song, it would be a problem and morally repugnant. But she said the post had no relation to the white supremacist anthem. There are plenty of references to those words in books and poems, she said, adding that she was in charge of everything posted on the department's social media accounts. But when the post was open on Instagram's mobile app, audio from the chorus of the song played in the background. After a reporter pointed this out, Ms. McLaughlin said the Times was participating in a left-wing conspiracy theory. I'm telling you, it's not there, she said. Less than 40 minutes after the interview on Thursday, the Instagram post, including audio from the song, disappeared from social media. Posts on X and Facebook, which did not include an audio component, are still visible. It was the Times, Ms. McLaughlin said, that was master streaming racism by tying the agency's post to the white nationalist anthem. Richard Hanania, a political scientist who once wrote 4 white nationalist publications under a pseudonym before moderating his view, said such accusations were part of the game. They do everything up to the line, It's kind of clever, he said. We Have Our Home Again is a white nationalist song. He added that, to his knowledge, no other groups would use it. So this is a guy who was once a part of the white nationalist organizations, and he's spilling the beans. In the past month, government agencies have made dozens more social media posts that include iconography associated with far-right extremist groups. All right, so here's another image here. Check this image out. All right, which way Greenland man? And notice this is coming from, or it came from, the White House. As President Trump escalated his campaign to seize control of Greenland this month, the White House's X account posted an image of a crossroads with a sun-drenched White House on the left and Russia and China to the right. The caption read, "Which way, Greenland man?" Last year, an ICE recruitment post on Homeland Security's X account asked, "Which way, American man?" The slogans echo the title of a 1978 book, Which Way, Western Man? That white supremacist groups treat as foundational, said Robert Futrell, a sociologist at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. The book claims that Jewish people are plotting to destroy Western civilization, that Adolf Hitler was right, and that violence against Jews is justified. Now, I would have known nothing about that. These are dog whistles. Again, gone are the days of the N-word. Those days are gone. But the ideology is still around. And the Trump administration is filled with people who are pushing that KKK ideology. I mean, this picture looks pretty harmless. Turns out, though, it's a white nationalist, white supremacist symbol that is cloaked, right? That has been sort of remastered, reimagined, so that the same message goes out to those people who are familiar with this messaging, but not to the rest of us. And that's one of the reasons why this is so dangerous, because they're pushing this narrative, pushing this message, pushing this agenda. And many of us, dare I say most of us, know nothing about it. All right? This month, the Labor Department posted a North-style image with the words, "Trust the plan." That's also a central catchphrase of QAnon on internet conspiracy theory that falsely claims the world is run by a cabal of Satan-worshiping pedophiles and that Mr. Trump has been chosen to sunder it or destroy it. Again, you show me that, I don't know anything about that. And so many Americans know absolutely nothing about these symbols, these images, these catchphrases. But that KKK ideology is being communicated all the time from the official accounts of the U.S. government. On New Year's Eve, the White House's X's account posted a photo of Mr. Trump alongside the word remigration. That is a decades-old European concept centered on the expulsion of non-white people and immigrants deemed unassimilated, said Wendy Via, co-founder of the Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. Tens of thousands of Germans protested the concept 2 years ago after the country's far-right alternative Für Deutschland party secretly met with neo-Nazis to discuss plans to implement it. More than a dozen AfD politicians have reposted Mr. Trump's remigration photo on X. Because we are not a part of these white supremacist organizations, we don't know the coded language that they're using. Kind of reminds me of how our ancestors during slavery communicated in ways that the enslaver couldn't understand, but they were talking our ancestors were talking to one another and planning their agenda. Well, that's happening now. And that is the reason why I'm bringing you this article. When I read this article, I said, I got to get this out. Also this month, the Labor Department posted a video captioned, "One homeland, one people, one heritage." Now, that again sounds benign. Let's keep reading. That phrase resembled a German slogan used by Nazis during World War II. Invok on, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, Invok, in Reich, in Führer, or one people, one realm, one leader. The Department of Labor did not respond to multiple requests for comment, but Abigail Jackson, a White House spokeswoman, dismissed any connections between the government post and extremism. So, if there's no connection, why use it? Why repeat Nazi slogans verbatim? Why do that if there's no connection? Wow. This is amazing. I mean, this is really, really, really amazing. Other experts were equally certain the apparent illusions were not an accident. Quote, "These people used to be in the dark corners of the internet," said Jesse Daniels, a sociologist at Hunter College who has studied online extremism for 30 years. Now they are holding public office. That is the part I want you to get. Okay? These folks were on the fringe. We had these people. We made it where they had to hide themselves because America was at least attempting to try to do right. And so we were pushing them. But then we messed around and reelected Trump. And he brought with him his entire cabal of white supremacists, KKK sympathizers, outright white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and so on. And they are back in power. And they're communicating with each other. As I said earlier, this is really dangerous. We really, any black person who cast a vote for these people really made a horrible mistake. A horrible mistake. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, any of that, if you're an African-American person, a black person, and cast a vote for this regime, that was like a Jewish person voting for the Nazis. Part of the draw of the post could be their potentially secret codes and numerological clues, especially in the recruitment images. There appear to be an appeal to a very specific segment of Americans, young men who live online and are disaffected by what they see as unwanted changes in American life, said Peter Simi, a Chapman University sociology who studies extremist groups. Now let's go back to this image. All right. U.S. Department of Labor, one homeland, one people, one heritage. Remember who you are, American. Now that sounds like that includes everybody. No, it does not. That is, as we just read, a Nazi slogan. And so they're not talking about you, non-white people, especially if you black, in this slogan. No, they're talking to one another. And that's why this immigration thing is so very important to them, because they are reasserting themselves as one homeland, one people, one heritage. Remember who you are, American. Remember who you are, white American, is what it's saying. one white homeland, one white people, one white heritage. It's just amazing. Sharon Sinar, a Stanford law professor who studies the legal treatment of political violence, said they are plainly trying to recruit a segment of the population that's moved by this rhetoric. For years, Mr. Trump and his campaign have dealt with and rejected accusations that officials in the Trump inner circle were surreptitiously appealing to racists and anti-Semites. But let's go back a minute. Who is this message targeting? They appear to be an appeal to a very specific segment of Americans, young men who live online and are disaffected by what they see as unwanted changes in American life, said Peter Simi, a Chapman University sociologist who studies extremist groups. The weird thing is, some young black males get caught up in this and they don't even know it's not about them. They think it is because they hear all the red pill stuff, right? They think it's about them, but if they really were able to get into the dark corners of this, they would see, oh, they hate me too. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I know that you listen, young black men, some of you, most of you, thank God you don't. Thank God you don't. But some of you are listening to pro-black imposters who are telling you that this crowd is okay. But how can you think for a second, young black man who supported Trump, that KKK ideology is good for you? All right, let's reread this part. For years, Mr. Trump and his campaign have dealt with and rejected accusations that officials in the Trump inner circle were surreptitiously appealing to racists and anti-Semites. Twitter posts by the candidates in 2026 depicting Hillary beside a Jewish star before piles of money had previously appeared on a message board known for anti-Semitism and white supremacy. Mr. Trump's final campaign commercial that year featured grainy images of George Soros, the liberal American financier, Janet L. Yellen, then the chairwoman of the Federal Reserve, and Lord Blankfein, then the chairman of Goldman Sachs, all of them Jewish, as Mr. Trump warned darkly about the global special interests. It's just a straight line between these ideas and the modern Trump administration, Mr. Hanaya said. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this gentleman's name correctly, but I hope so. The Trump administration is mobilizing these people and having them flood Twitter and create this environment that they're winning, he said. The fact that the media and liberals react so strongly to this is kind of a badge of honor. Wow. And again, young black man, this is not your crowd. They're not trying to help you. I know they kind of pull you in with a lot of anti-democratic rhetoric. The Democrats are bad. The Democrats this. The Democrats hate you all. I know they use all that because they need your vote. They just need your vote. They just need a certain percentage of you to vote for them. But this is no different than when your grandfather dealt with the KKK 50, 60, 70 years ago. All right? And even back then, they recruited certain young black people and middle-aged and older black people, black men, to help them with their KKK agenda back then. Don't you be one of those, young brother. Don't you be one of those. Scott Greer, a right-wing podcaster and writer who considers himself part of the online right that these posts are ostensibly targeting, is not so sure of the administration's motivation. some on the urns from the right and left. All right, look at this. This post here has Trump. Remigration. It's coming from the White House. Looks kind of harmless to the average eye. All right, internet-obsessed right think the posts are meant to bamboozle them into liking Trump, he said. For his part, he added, even though some of the posts go too far with what the normal, not-so-online MAGA base may be for, he now thinks they reflect a broader trend of politicians taking this more irreverent tone and using memes from the right and left. We accept it as more a normal part of politics, he said. Many Republican leaders vehemently denounce anti-Semitism, and the Trump administration has put pressure on universities and other parts of American society to protect Jews from hate speech and attacks. But in recent months, some members of the party have openly wrestled with whether to reject some Trump supporters who have made anti-Semitic, bigoted, or extremist remarks. And that is the weird thing about the Republican Party. We know the Republican Party, we know white supremacists, KKK, have been anti-Semitic for generations. Yet, at the same time, the Republican Party tries to put forth this ideal that they are pro-Jewish. Well, that most likely comes from the white evangelical side of things. But the run-of-the-mill, everyday GOP member has that anti-Semitism streak that has run in the Republican Party and this sort of KKK ideological group of people. It has run for many, many generations. Many generations. They've linked the Jewish community with the African-American community and have said that the Jewish community uses their money like George Soros to change America, to replace white people. All right? When asked in December whether far-right extremists and conspiracy theorists should be embraced as part of the Trump coalition, Vice President J.D. Vance declined to rule them out. In contrast, Mr. Trump said of anti-Semites in an interview this month with the Times, I think we don't need them, emphasizing, I think we don't like them. Still, most of the social media posts remain, despite the scrutiny over possible allusions to extremism. So we need to be up on what is going on with the Trump administration and how it is centering its agenda using KKK ideology, but doing so in a discreet, hidden, clandestine, covert manner. So, I brought you this article because we, as African-American people, we need to know what's going on because it is dangerous what these folks are doing as they try to roll us back to Jim Crow. And some of us are helping them out. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And as I always say, it's more important than ever. Stay woke.